Hello and welcome to another Leica review. Today we are going to be looking at the latest camera from Leica, and this one is a Leica CL. This Leica CL is an APS-C size camera that is to deliver 24 megapixels. It's got an ISO range of 100 to 50,000 and it is a wonderful camera. But before we go into what this camera can do and show you how it performs on the field and also what its competitors are and whether it's worth buying, I want to briefly mention its history, because once we understand its history, we are able to evaluate what this camera is supposed to be in Leica's lineup. Now, Leica CL, as we know, is not the first Leica CL that has been ever produced. Long time ago, back in 1973, Leica had an agreement with Minolta, which is a Japanese camera manufacturer and lens manufacturer, and they produce things together, including lenses and cameras. And in the year 1973, they came out with the Leica CL. It was supposed to be a cheap, affordable camera that was supposed to capture a greater market share. And for that very reason, they came up with this very compact camera. And at the time, the camera was supposed to be going out with Leica as the brand, Leica Lights, and also as Leica Minolta. Now, there were 65,000 assigned copies that were supposed to be made, and out of that, 3,500 special editions were made in 1975, listed as the 50-year anniversary edition. Now, beyond that, it is important to realize that the Leica Minolta series didn't include that 65,000 number. So there were many of these made, and they were very cheap and very affordable. And we fast forward today, and we're having this Leica CL. It's very compact, it's very minimalistic. It looks cheaper than what it is supposed to be, but it's a very compact and very affordable camera. Now, if you look at all the range of cameras that are in Leica's lineup, including Leica S, Leica SL, Leica M, M10, all those cameras, you'll find that this is relatively well priced compared to the other ones. Of course, when we compare this to all the cameras out there in the market, well, it is relatively higher priced. If you look at, for example, Fuji's or the Sony's, you're going to find there is a big difference. Especially its main competitor, Fuji, has a lot of these cameras. They have been producing APS-C type sensor cameras for a long time, and they have probably the best compact camera in the market besides Leica. Now, Leica is coming with a Leica CL and is introducing this camera, and that is supposed to be very competitive. So when we look at this camera, we have to look at it as a general market camera, the one that is supposed to capture the market and greater part of the market. So when we look at these specs, let's look at it from that perspective. First of all, look at the APS-C. APS-C is a smaller sensor than the full frame, of course making it more affordable, because as the sensor sizes grow, the price of the camera goes up, as in the case of Leica Q. Now, in this case, we have not a fixed lens camera. We have the option of swapping other lenses on it. So you can put a Leica M lens on it. You can put, of course, the Leica T, TL type of lenses, and that gives a lot of options. And that means this camera is supposed to be all-purpose camera. This is in the same way the original Leica CL was made. You could swap the lenses and use it with different focal lengths. Now, one of the things to consider is that this is going to be a crop sensor. What that means is any lens you put on a full frame onto this is going to be multiplied by 1.5, approximation that is. Now, what does that mean? So if you have, for example, an 18 millimeter, it's going to give you a 24 millimeter equivalent in full frame. Now, 24 millimeters is probably one of the ideal wide angle lenses, and that's one of the reasons when this camera was launched, it came out with 18 millimeter Elmerit M. Now, it's a f2.8 lens. It's not fast, it's not too slow. It is a lens that is supposed to capture the market. Now, if you want a really fast lens, you go to f1.8, f2, those are really fast. But this lens is designed to be a affordable lens. That's why it's not f4 but f2.8, which means it will cover generally all your needs if you are going to be doing average photography. What I mean by average photography is your average everyday photography. If you're going to go out on the streets, you can use this camera. If you're going to go out to landscape photography, you can use this. You can take photographs of just about anything. The only thing that you will notice is that because it's a wide angle lens and because the aperture only stops down to f2.8, you are going to have this issue where you're not going to have a very deep bokeh. And bokeh is a very important factor if you want to isolate subjects. And this is one of the reasons these lenses, of course, the 18mm and lower, are not going to be very suitable if you're going to do portrait photography. Now, some people might say portrait photography lenses are 50mm and up. That is not really correct. If you look at the f1.4 for the 21mm Similux, it is designed as a portrait lens as well. And if you look at the interviews by its designer, Peter Karp, you will find that he recommends it as a portrait lens. So it's not that important to have a lens that is wide angle. What is important is if you're going to use it as a portrait lens, that you have an option to go to f1.4 or 1.8 to capture that amazing bokeh. That is what is going to create that background separation. Now, having said this, as I said, is an all-purpose lens. It is a lens that is designed to be versatile, and of course it's a compact small lens for which I have done the review. You'll be able to read it on our website in great details. I'll post photographs of those and show you how it performs in the field. Now, of course, with the Leica CL, what I also did is I took my favorite lens from the TL series, which is a 23mm lens that is a very good f2 lens. It's a monochrome. So I placed that one and I got approximation of 35mm on the lens on the Leica CL. So what that gave me was the option of seeing things from a different perspective. So I'm going to be posting all those photographs as well, but you can see those photographs at the end of this article and see and judge for yourself how it performs. Now, one of the things that you should notice is that this APS-C sensor camera is not the first to come out of the Leica series. There is a Leica T, which later came to Leica TL and a Leica TL2, which sells, of course, much lower than the current Leica CL. But from a perspective of making it marketable and making it affordable, of course, Leica CL, when you compare it to Leica TL2, they are about the same in terms of performance, but the design is very different. One is very minimalistic. It doesn't draw its attention to anything on it in particular. You might even mistake it for a cheaper camera or camera that is not one of the brands that we instantly recognize. And that is the beauty of it. That's the allure of it, because you can take this camera and it becomes non-threatening. It becomes something that people will just dismiss it as somebody taking just a snapshot with their old camera, and that allows it to be a great camera if you're going to use it for street photography. Now, we are going to talk about the image quality, but before I do that, I also want to mention some of the features that this camera has. It has video features, but the video feature is something that I would not recommend using it for many reasons. First of all, you cannot put in audio jacks, and you cannot control the settings on it. Basically, it just captures whatever is in front of you without any great quality of sound. So it as a camera to use for example, videographing, for other purposes, it's not really a great camera. But you can, for example, capture, for example, great landscape, and the landscape could be placed on top of a piece of music that is very pleasing, and you can post it or share it, or you can capture your children or your family members in their environment, and that will give you an option to record it. But I will say to you this, it is not a camera to be used as a video camera, and Leica has been lagging way behind in this factor because they have already introduced 4K, but they are not something that is flexible. So if you compare it to Panasonic's, Sony's, where there is the ability to manipulate the settings on the camera while it's video recording, this is not the camera to do it with. So in that respect, video is not the case. And I would say if you're going to use this camera, just use it for photography. And as a photography camera, it's very good. I would suggest that if you are a small-handed person, a person that does not need to have, big lenses and stuff, this is perfect, because when I held it in my hand and I looked at it and I said, this is really compact, and I would not want to do manual focusing because, when you're moving the lens on the camera body, you're actually going to be moving the camera itself. And that is an issue. Also, the image stabilization issue, which is like on most cameras, it comes to 4 or 5 stops now. This is not the option on the Leica CL. The Leica CL is not the camera to stabilize images in the same way. So what we are having is a very basic camera in terms of, point and shoot kind of camera. Also a camera that performs relatively well if you have the right lens on it. So if you have a fast lens, let's say f1.4 or f2, you're going to get great images because you can use a faster shutter and it will give you great results even in low light. So that's something to consider. Beyond that, if you look at this camera as a camera that you can, take photographs and then transfer it to your smartphone to share with your friends or social media platforms, it will work. It will work because it has Wi-Fi connectivity. It has all the things that the modern cameras have. I personally wouldn't want to use it that way because what I always do is take the photographs, transfer it into my computer, do my editing on the images before I post them. Even if they are seen on a small smartphone screen, it is not the way to post photographs because you're actually depriving your photographs of their best quality. So I was shooting DNG format, which is a RAW format, and then I edit those photographs, and then finally I'll post them on whatever platform I need to post them. And personally, if you are in that category of people who are just taking photographs and posting it, your smartphone is probably going to do just as good job as your 18mm camera. So if you are going to be doing it, do it properly. Take your photographs, transport it into your computer, do the editing, and then take the photographs and send it back to your phone where you can just use it from there. Now, some people might just say, I like the way that it is and I like to do it the Wi-Fi route. That's fine. It's up to you. It's a choice that you can consider. Now, beyond that, I like this camera because it's compact. I can stick it into my coat pocket, which I did, and I can put it into my camera bag, which doesn't take up a lot of space. And all I need is a lens that is very versatile. So I put as I said, the 23mm along with the 18mm, and it covered pretty much all my wide angles. Now, there is a great lens to get, which is the 35mm f1.4, which is the TL lens, and that lens will perform spectacularly, but it is a very large lens to be placed on a camera of this size because the camera is very compact, and what you're going to have is an extended protrusion on the camera body, which will attract attention. So that is something to consider. But as a portrait lens, that is a great lens to use. Also, the 60mm is a great lens. You can do macro photography, and I highly recommend it. And I will be doing those reviews as well as the time progresses, because this is one of the cameras that I like to explore and have fun with. Because if you think about it, the reason we don't take our cameras along with us is because the cameras are heavy or take up room, or we don't want to carry it around if you're traveling. But this is the camera you can, as I said, put in your coat pocket and go wherever you want, and you can always have it with you. This is the reason why I like it. Now, for those who have been asking this question, is whether is it worth switching from Leica Q to Leica CL or getting it as a second camera, I will say two things. One thing is that Leica Q is relatively old now in technology wise. So there will be a Leica Q2 that will be coming out in 2018, which of course the company has not said anything about it. It's just rumors. So I'm passing the rumors to you so you can make your judgment. So when should you expect it? Sometime in springtime. So that is one thing to consider. Secondly, the Leica Q is a full frame camera. Although it's a fixed lens camera, it is a great performer in low light situation and has great optics. Remember, it is a Sumilux lens. It's at f1.7. So it gives you that great ability to isolate the subject. It gives you that great ability to shoot in low light. It gives you great ability to use it in various circumstances. And you can even crop that image to get really decent images. Like if you're doing portrait photography, you can crop it down and get a portrait of like 50 millimeters or so. And also if you are doing wide angle lens photography, which you may be capturing architecture or landscape, that is a great camera, and it will not compete with a lens like 18 millimeter. 18 millimeter lens is designed just specifically for the use of general purpose photography. So having said that, I will also say that I like the way that there are two thumb dials on top, as it was in the Leica TL2, and that allows you to set your settings. It's flexible, it's better designed. I would say that it is a camera that can serve multiple purposes. Now, there are people who say, you know, I don't like the fact that the battery compartment has got the memory card and all that other stuff, but for me what's important is it functional, is it capable, can it deliver performance? Yes, it can. And with the Leica lenses you'll get greater quality than what you will get with regular average cameras. Considering that if you put these two cameras together, you're gonna get a really high price, and that's gonna cost like 2 to 3 times the price, but that of for example a Fuji camera. But that's not what the concern is. The concern is, do we get the Leica colors? Do we get the Leica accuracy? Do we get the Leica image quality? And yes, we do. And if you put these images next to a Fuji, which I will have reviewed also, which I will be posting in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see that the images look similar, but there is this distinct difference of the signature look that the Fuji has and the signature look that Leica has. What I like about the Leica lenses and the way it works with the Leica CL is that it has this beautiful skin tones. Now, something also you need to consider that not all Leica cameras are gonna perform the same way. And the same way that the lenses, some lenses, the Leica T series, for example, have had their lenses produced in Japan and not Germany. So what that means is you're going to have image quality that's going to be slightly different than what you would have expected, for example, from a $7,000 lens that is produced in Germany. But overall, the quality, the makeup know-how that also went into the lens is going to show up. And normal person who looks at these photographs will only see beautiful photographs. They will not see the differences. The subtleties are very minor. So would I hesitate in purchasing an 18 millimeter? No, it's a general purpose lens, and the camera is a very good camera just to use for general purpose. And if that fits your profile, if that's what you're looking for, very well. Whom would I recommend this camera to? First of all, I would recommend to anyone who's starting photography and doesn't want to carry big cameras around and does not want to be concerned with, you know, doing manual focusing, like doing the M type of photography, the rangefinder photography. That's, having said that, I will say to you that if you're going to do manual photography, manual focusing, that's not the camera to do it with. I've seen people, I've seen the reviews, they're trying to do manual focusing. It's just not the way to do it. It doesn't have hard stops, doesn't have, you know, the space to maneuver, it doesn't have the aperture stop on it. So it's not the camera to do it with, but it is an autofocus lens, so you can use it, and it's very functional. And of course, because it's a wide angle lens that you're using with 18 millimeter, for example, you're not going to get anything out of focus. You're going to get everything in focus, which is beautiful. Now, I have put a lot of information, a lot of details on the article on our website, the leicareview.com. You can visit it. I put a link down at the bottom. you can look at those article information, and you can say, you know, if that is lens and the camera combination you want to purchase. I would say look at it, test it out. If you have a friend who bought it, use it for a day or two, make your own mind up. But as a camera, there's nothing wrong that I can take away from the Leica CL, except that it's relatively high priced. As a first choice, I still will go with the Leica Q if I don't own it. But if I own a Leica Q and I want to have a second camera, Leica CL will do wonderful. If you're like Leica M, you want to use a more compact camera because Leica Q has a protrusion. This is a great camera to have, and it's also a great camera to buy to first-time users, like, you know, younger people who have graduated from school or something along those lines, or birthday presents. It will work wonderful, and it will not break the bank. So I hope you have enjoyed this review. I look forward to seeing you in our next review, and I thank you for watching.